Hi, I am Timur Sol and you are watching basically Feywild, the show where I talk about everything Fey. Today I would like to talk about the Fey Bargains. You got a minute? If you said yes, you might have gotten yourself into a Fey deal that you didn't even ask for. In the last episode, I was talking about the Archfey and how their morality is slightly, or even not slightly, a lot different than our morality. In this episode, I will also talk about how they understand reality and how their type of striking a deal might be vastly different from our understanding of contracts and deals. It might be wise to start with looking at other entities that strike deals in Dungeons and Dragons. Typically, these would be devils, and you have a whole chapter or sub-chapter devoted to devils and the diabolical deals in Descent into Avernus. And also from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, you can read about the dark gifts and how Dark Lords and other dark powers can grant specific boons to our players and our characters. I will start with the devils, and later on I will talk a little bit about the dark gifts. Again, as usually, using quotes from the books, so if you are in front or before these adventures, please skip the spoiler and go to the next chapter. And if you don't care about spoilers, then just go ahead. A hallmark of devils is their delight in striking deals with mortals. These deals are more than mere agreements. They are cosmically binding exchanges in which a devil grants a mortal character some measure of power for a price. Once an agreement is reached, the deal is sealed with a binding contract which both parties must sign. A devil's ultimate goal is to claim the mortal's soul. If it can't get the mortal's soul in one full swoop, the devil tries to take it one little piece at a time by encouraging the mortal to commit evil acts and thereby condemning the mortal's souls to the 9 hells. Infernal deals are enforced by the weight of the multiverse itself, by the very essence of the forces of law and evil. Devils channel this essence through the infernal hierarchy that governs their existence. Devils higher up in the hierarchy can leverage more potent deals and offer more enticing gifts. Least devils can't enter into deals. Lesser and greater devils can enter into deals either for themselves or as an intermediary for their infernal superiors. Archdevils are the only devils able to freely deal with creatures outside of the 9 hells, usually when mortals invoke them to beg their favor. An archdevil who wishes to make a deal with a character can do so in person or send a minion to propose the deal and negotiate on its behalf. A character can also contact an archdevil by killing a chaotic or good aligned humanoid and praying to the archdevil over the course of 1 hour. The archdevil hears the character's prayer and can choose to respond in dreams or visions, or it can send a minion with the authority to make a deal on its behalf. A character bound by an infernal contract who fails to pay the price specified in the contract immediately suffers a penalty for breaching the contract as specified in the contract itself. Common penalties include the following. The character's soul is forfeit when the character dies. The character loses all monetary wealth and property or a powerful magical item to the devil. The character grows horns, a tail, or some other devilish features that can't be removed by any means short of divine intervention. The character gains a new flaw. A character who exhibits behavior inconsistent with this flaw has disadvantage on all attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws until the behavior changes to match the flaw. The dark powers influence many who struggle within their clutches, tempting both the innocent and ambitious with whispered promises. These sinister bargains are rarely spoken, coming in dreams or mysterious visions, but their terms are always clear and their prices terrible. The supernatural gift expresses both a mysterious power and insidious influence. Sinister forces might contact a character and offer them a dark gift in return for some service or future favor. A dark gift gained as a result of such bargain reflects the agenda of the being or beings offering the bargain, be it the dark powers, a dark lord, or a more mysterious force. The particulars of a dark gift and how it will affect the character must be clear to a player before they choose whether or not to accept it. The offer of a dark gift might manifest in a dream, in a moment of frozen time, or when the character is alone. Typically, only one character is aware of the bargain, its terms, and whether or not it was accepted. The main difference between devils, dark lords, mysterious entities, and the Fey is the clarity in which a contract is stated. So for a devil, although he might try to omit some parts of the contract, or might try to fool you or trick you, or just make the mortal sign a contract that is somewhat not favorable for the mortal, he still needs to lay everything on paper, and he needs to make sure that everything is understandable by the mortal that is signing the contract. For the dark gifts, over there you have a clear explanation that both sides need to understand the contract before they accept it. For the Fae, well, over here you have a very frivolous approach to contracts and how they are constructed, how they are built, if they are in paper or whether they are only verbal, or is there any specific boon or charm that makes the contract go off. These are things that for the Fae are somewhat liquid. There are, however, things that are in common. So when you talk about devils, you can see that not every devil can make a deal. You won't make a deal with a lemur or one of the lower level devils. That's one, impossible. B, it's not beneficial for anyone. Because if every devil could go around and make some deals, the whole devilish hierarchy would be simply unneeded for. Hierarchy states that only parts of the devilish rings can make bargains with the mortals, and it's similar with the Fae. Not every Fae can make a deal, not every Fae can propose something to our heroes. Imagine a small pixie trying to make a Fey bargain with our players. That's not something that we would find plausible, and it's not as attractive as you might perceive it in the beginning. To strike a deal, you would rather need something bigger. So if we would try to make our Fey somewhat also a hierarchy, we would probably put the pixies, dryads in the lowest level, maybe satyrs, sprites, things that are really CR 1.5, stuff like that. Those would be the lowest level of Fey. They are impossible to get a bargain with because they don't have the power to boon gifts, to grant gifts to our players. Another level would be probably dryads, hags, maybe sirens also. Now, hags are relatively specific. I'm talking about the basic hags, so the green hags, the sea hags, not the elder hags. These wouldn't have enough power to make any deals, though they do have some specific powers around, in their immediate vicinity, let's say. So a dryad could have some power over the trees that are growing near its main tree. It could be so, but it's also, again, not exactly plausible or not exactly as interesting as deals with higher Fey. The first level of Fey that I would say could make a deal would be Eladrins, maybe some Fomorians, higher Fomorians, Elder Hags, so Bear Hags and other. So we're thinking about CR 7 and higher. They can make deals, but I wouldn't say I would grant these creatures abilities to give gifts to our players. So we could make a deal about traversing some part of the Feywild, for example, in a safe manner, or things like that. But I wouldn't give them the power to grant some magical, mystical powers to our characters. The first level of real gifts and real power for me would be the lords and ladies of the Fey courts. So we're talking about nobles that are present in the Fey courts, not immediately archfey. We don't need archfey exactly. We can have lords, ladies, also the knights, preferably if you use knights in your games. These also are creatures that could have some power or enough power to become a patron for a Fey gift. And Archfey are our immediate go-to, the creatures that create courts around there, or courtless Archfey. They should have enough power to grant gifts to us. These creatures can shape the reality around them, they can shape the Feywild around them, they can even shape time around them. There's not much that is a border for them or is impossible for them. So these are the creatures that we are mostly talking about when we are talking about Fey Bargains. So again, let me reiterate, if you want your players to strike a bargain with a Fey, don't make it so that each and every pixie can strike a bargain, because you're gonna get really overwhelmed by the amount of questions from your players towards each and every satyr or pixie or sprite that they encounter. There are several ways of thinking or ideas of what a Fey might actually want from us, from mortals. We are talking about creatures that are incredibly powerful. So what an incredibly powerful creature might want from a mere mortal that will die in 60 years from now? It seems again something that something is off, but you have to remember that Fey are and especially Archfey are very, very interested in our emotions, in our lives. For them, things that are common and mundane might be much more interesting than we even think. So Archfey might want your memories. The memories of your first kiss, the memories of your biggest victory, the memories of something that changed your life. So if you look at the backstory of a character, the Fey might want something from that backstory, and it disappears from your backstory. There's no going back. It's not borrowing. It's not learning about the part of your memory or your backstory. It's taking it for the Fey, so the Fey can experience it. It does have some serious ramifications if you have a heavy roleplay game. Taking away an ideal from a character is a huge thing if you think about it closely. The Fey might want to take your last moment when you felt secure and safe. And by doing that, it might induce a new flaw in you. Paranoia, for example, that you will have to roleplay during your later game. So these are the prices when we talk about memories. Memories are often things that are used as examples when we talk about Fey Bargains, what a Fey might want from a mortal. If you don't want it to be so metaphysical like memories, you can always go towards the route of services. So a Fey wants you to do something. Usually that is because Fey like when we do stuff. They find it amusing, they find it fun, and this is their way of spending their time, looking at things that we do. Well, everybody has their own hobby, right? We have a hobby where we have an imagined world. So who am I to judge on Archfey? So an Archfey might want you to go back to the material world and steal a baby of a duke or a king that had a deal with the same Archfey some years ago and now is trying to get out of the bargain. You can be asked by the Archfey to go into a village and set free all the animals that are inside the village. Dogs, chickens, ducks, whatever you find. Set them free as they are part of nature. You can have the Fae ask you to go to the highest mountain in the land and fight the Sphinx that lives up there, but do not kill it. Just let it know that you're sent by me, the Archfey, because this is the way in which my legend grows. If you watched the last episode, I've been talking there about how Fey might take some of their powers from stories and from legends that are told about them. So a Fey might want to just propagate the story of their specific endeavors, their champions, and so on. And speaking about champions, a Fey might want you to be their champions in a battle royale between different courts. And this is already a cool plot hook in which you can have many battles, but also many social courtish intrigues. If you're interested in Fey politics and conflicts, you can also jump back 2 episodes. I made one specifically about that. You can have the Archfey ask for the players to reignite the spark of love between 2 elderly, a duke and a duchess of something, because the Fae has an idea that in the future the child of these 2 will be something important for the Fae. That's also an idea you can use. You can have various different things. You can have the champions or the adventurers prove themselves by, for example, traversing a dangerous bog or marshland without using violence. You can have them catch a phoenix without, or a phoenix feather without hurting the phoenix. Things like that. So things that are uncommon in Dungeons and Dragons, but still are very interesting, because the amount of roleplay that you can get from such instances, from such quests, it's simply amazing. A cool thing that you can do is ask the players, as an Archfey, to learn the true name of a devil, and this already grants you a whole plot hook and whole mini adventure arc, where you got to go to hell or to some mysterious library to learn the name of a devil. Then you give the name of the devil to the Archfey, and now you have 2 powerful entities that are in a clutch of sorts, or one controls the other powerful entity, and you can spin this all around and have the Archfey be the big bad evil guy that only needed someone in hell to bring hell to Feywild, and all hell breaks loose. That's a really good thing for you to do. I might do that in my own campaign at some point. And speaking about Fey and other mysterious beings, you can also have, for fun, and again, this is a social roleplay-ish thing, ask the players to convert a devoted cleric of X deity, and convert him to fate in a different deity, or become a warlock of the Archfey, or pledge allegiance to the Archfey. So slightly mischievous, though again, remember that Fey don't have the same morality as we do. A common thing that an Archfey might ask the players is to do something that the Archfey can't do because it is bound by the laws of nature. So if an Archfey can't leave Feywild, for example, it might ask you to leave the Feywild in your body. So it inhibits your body for the brief moment when you use the portal, and then it exits. And the ramifications can be great or not at all, but that is up to the DM to decide. If you're using Archfey that cannot lie, so something very close to the Dresden Files idea, where they cannot lie and they have to speak the truth. If you're using something like that, an Archfey might ask your players the ability to lie. And maybe by doing so, the player loses the ability to lie and always have to speak the truth. An Archfey often can't die. So maybe he will ask the players to kill him, or to find a way to kill him. Or the possibility is that the Fae might want to inhibit your body again. It's just like a demon possess your body and die in your body. So you have to kill yourself so the Fae can experience real death. Again, Fae are emotional beings. They are fickle, they are whimsical. If they cannot get something, they want it. And if they can't die, they might want to just check how it is. Some DMs also find it favorable or usable to always include an escape clause in the contract. So these are hidden from the players. So only the DM knows how to escape the contract. And these can be used as wild cards when things go awry or the players are not going the route that you thought they will, and you need to get them out of the contract. There are cases like that, so you can always have an escape clause, like this contract ends if the players manage to sell their contract to another archfey, or if the players find and eat the apple of forgiveness, or if they find the tree of memories and plant the memory of the contract itself somewhere in the vicinity so it gets forgotten. These are also ideas that you can use if you think that you might need an escape clause, although please remember that D&D is all about consequences and ramifications, so it's not always good to have several ways out. Sometimes a deal is a deal. In your game, you might also want to structure your contract so that there's a hidden price. So we're gonna take a look at a few contract examples of what a Fey can give to the player, and these will be typical gifts or boons that you can find, for example, in the Dungeons Master's Guide. So here's a list of contracts that you can potentially make with your players as an Archfey. Now notice how they are structured. There's always a benefit that you can get from the contract, the payment that you have straightforward pronounced by the Fey. There's a hidden cost and there's an escape clause. Now the escape clause can either cancel the hidden cost or the whole deal that we made, so not only this part but also the whole part. It's up to you if you want to use the escape clause. Usually people sit with these two over here and that's all. This is the usual usage of gifts, so you get something but you pay something in return, but the hidden cost and escape clause give an additional flavor to the deals, and they might be beneficial in your game. You might find them interesting. I do. So what else we can do? These contracts are structured, sorry for that, these contracts are structured horizontally, so each contract is so number threes go together, for example, and this is how they are built. So you learn 3 cantrips, you play a prank on a designated druid, you cannot rest unless you're inside a stone circle, and play a prank on the fairy in return is the escape clause over here, and these go together. But we can roll some dice and see if we get any interesting results over here. So number 5, you get a sentient artifact fueled by a soul. And again number 5, you need to bring a hag's lucky charm to the Fae in return as payment. 1, you have disadvantage on all charisma checks. Maybe that's because the hag cursed you while being slain or tricked, or perhaps the sentient artifact is constantly spewing some curse words or has an aura that is in some way foul and felt by other creatures. And the escape clause, take the Archfey shadow away from it. So even though you have this negative aura, you can cancel it by using the Archfey's shadow. So we got the first contract like this. Let's roll some more dice. Number 5 again, so I'm going to re-roll that. Number 4, you learn 3 cantrips. And we'll learn 3 cantrips for, what's with the 5s? For 5 minutes of our time. Now, as mentioned, not necessarily immediate 5 minutes, it may be 5 minutes somewhere in the future. The fairy wants just one small favor in the future, that's the hidden cost. And number 8, if we want to get out of this deal, we need the Archfey. We need to surprise the Archfey without using any magic whatsoever. So this is the second deal that we rolled for today. I'm just gonna put it like this, so it's clearly visible. If you're wondering what this tool is, it's Draw.io. It's a tool I use for my mind maps. And the third deal, just to seal it, we get blind sight 60 feet and true sight 10 feet. This is a really powerful thing to have. Let's make it violet or blue. And the payment for that will be the eyes of our character. So the eyes of our character melt away or disappear and are now empty holes, and though the character can see with true sight. Additionally, you are convinced that you can talk with plants or that the plants talk. Now this is again something for the DM to decide. If the DM wants the plants to talk for real, that's something you can do. If not, well, that's also something to be something fun. And the escape clause is to receive 4 different elemental types of damage in 1 turn, so in under 6 seconds. And again, these are meant to be horizontally read horizontally, but you can see that you can use different types of things to create a contract of your own. And I believe actually that the best way to do it is think about it in advance, what potential contracts your players might want, and think of how you can word the contract so that you have the hidden cost roughly out in the open, so it's somewhere vaguely mentioned, somewhere in the second, third line. It's very blurry. And don't talk about, sorry for that, don't talk about the escape clause. The escape clause is something that the players might learn in a library of some sorts or from someone who has lore. The only things that are plain and in plain sight should be the benefit and the payment when you are using contracts like these. The hidden cost should be, well, as the name says, it should be hidden in some way, and the escape clause should be known only to the DM to decide. Since I'm having quite some fun over here, I'm going to roll again. The third, resistance to non-magical damage, also something cool to have. And again, 3, the character's skin is unnaturally hot or cold, and by unnaturally I mean really unnaturally. So a player might, for example, be so cold or so hot that it hurts other creatures that the character touches. That's something that I think might be very interesting to use in your games. Since you are unnatural now, all humanoids look the same for you, so you kind of forget how faces look. And the escape clause would be number 5. You need to cast resurrection on the body of the soul once had. Well, again, this is roughly horizontally, so I would say this doesn't fit this one at all. I'm going to re-roll that. Number 6, get incapacitated while being charmed. Again, something interesting. I really like this way of creating contracts or creating things that are dependent on each other, because it makes your DM brain work on a different level of some sorts. As mentioned earlier, I created these in a horizontal manner, and now that I see how they work with each other in a different way, I also see the benefits of it. Fey contracts are usually impossible to break. When they are struck, they become part of nature, part of time itself. They become part of reality. So the reality will do everything to enforce the contract as it is. So there's no easy going out. If you don't oblige with the contract, if you don't follow the rules, if you break the contract, if you don't do what you were told to do, you might get erased from nature. There are other ideas that you can use if a contract has been breached. A good example of this might be Chihiro from Spirited Away. When she gave her name away to Yubaba, Yubaba also took her identity. And with her identity, Chihiro started to forget her memories, forget herself, and she started to be more similar to the spirits and more otherworldly than mortal. If you want to have some more tangible consequences, more mechanical consequences, you can just take away parts of the ability scores that your player has. A penalty to charisma, to dexterity, because all of a sudden the player starts to grow hoofs instead of feet, could be very, very severe. A mortal might gain a flaw or some personality trait that, if not followed, if the player doesn't roleplay with that flaw, he will get permanent disadvantage to all rolls, all ability checks, all attack rolls, and everything. So ramifications are huge. And why are they like that? Well, as I said, the contract is part of nature, it's part of time itself, and it has to be very, very severe to break or try to break the rules that are natural and connected with the weave of time. Although it's very, very uncommon, it may be that the Fey breaches the contract, and in such cases it might get demoted or lose a level, so might not be part of the court again and become a simple satyr. It might get exiled. It might be forced to serve a mortal for some time or owe the mortal a favor. It might also gain a vulnerability, a weakness, or might be forced to do something that the players need, or might be forced to, for example, revive or restore a number of memories that were taken away from the players. So there's a whole lot of different possibilities over here, but let's be fair, Archfey won't break a contract. Often, Fey contracts take the form of a charm or something more physical. So it could be a lock of hair, it could be a sword with runes, intrinsic runes all over it. It could be an apple in caramel. It could be a simple amulet, whatever you need. The contract itself, although often it's usually spoken, might take a form of a physical object. And the physical object, if lost, it will reappear next to the owner of the contract and so on and so on. But it's a physical manifestation of the will of nature. It's not something that you can just throw away. But there is also a whole different approach to Fey Bargains. Those that I've been talking about a few minutes ago, those were more structured. Those were the cases where the players know they want something and the Archfey knows he wants something, or that he can grant the players with that something, but you have to do X for me. So the rules are roughly clear. There can be stuff omitted by the Archfey, usually somewhere hidden in the contract rules or the way in which it's phrased, but usually it's so that both sides roughly know what they're going to do and know their responsibilities in the contract. But there is also another very fun way to include Fey bargains in your games, and this is the reason why often in folklore you'll find people saying that just don't speak with the Fey. Just don't speak with them. It's not like don't strike bargains with them, don't try to haggle with them or anything like that. Just don't speak to a Fey. And this is something I will again revert to the orange and blue morality from last episode. For the Fey, they might just look at the whole bargain deal in a whole different way. And this approach, again, goes back to thinking about the Fey as language and story connected. Because in this approach, everything that you say to the Fey or the Fey says to you is immediately part of the reality. So let's take a look at a few of the tongue twisters that I found that might be coined into a real deal with a mischievous or benevolent Fey. If a Fey asks you to give it a hand, if you agree, you might be agreeing to marry the Fey, or you might be agreeing to just lose one of your limbs as it magically disappears and appears in the possessions of the Archfey that asked you for your hand. If a Fey asks you if you would care for something, the immediate response should be no, because if you agree to care for an apple, you agree to tend to its needs and nurture it until it becomes a huge tree. Or it can entrust you, the Fey can entrust you with an object or item, and it appears in your inventory, and now it's your duty to protect it from any damage, rot, or whatever else. In the normal world, we wouldn't understand the question, can I have a word, in any other way, but for the Fey, if you agree to give the word to a Fey, you might lose one of your words, and the word can be chosen by the Archfey. So the Archfey might choose to get the word if from your mind, and you are prohibited to say the word if forever. It could be something simpler like heal or devil or demon or knight, sword, or whatever else. And each time you try to say the word, you either go blank or say something absolutely different instead of it. If the party bard is asked for a song and says yes, I would give you a song, the song is plucked out of his mind and from his repertoire, and the bard gets a permanent -2 to his performance check, or permanent disadvantage to his performance checks until he gets the song back. If you agree to spare a minute for the Fey, you get 1 minute plucked out of your lifetime, and it doesn't seem like bad, but it doesn't have to be the immediate minute right now. It can be a minute in 2 or 3 weeks time, and that would be devastating. Imagine being inside a fight or in the court of a king, and all of a sudden you phase out because the Fey takes over your body for that 1 minute. Lending your ear or keeping an eye on something is again something connected with the physicality of the body, not metaphor. So you can either lose an ear or all of a sudden your eye appears on an object, and to get the eye back you need to do something for the Fey. If you agree to do something kindly, you automatically agree to do it non-violently. So would you kindly kill the hag mother? Yes, I would kindly do so. And if you say something like that, well, you need to find a way to kill the hag mother without violence, perhaps with trickery or something else, but it needs to be kindly. Each description of time might work differently in the Feywild. So if a Fey asks you to stay for the evening, it might mean to stay forever, since in the Feywild time works differently, and it's an eternal twilight in some places, so there is no evening. So you are trapped there forever until the Fey bargain is void. If you agree to share your thoughts with the Fey, there are two ideas over here. You either only have half of your thoughts and the other half is spoken by the Fey, or you just agree to a permanent thought detection by the Fey whenever it wants. And that is all I got for today. If you liked this episode, please click like, subscribe, thumbs up, or whatever you got down there when you are watching this video. It helps both me with the visibility of the channel and other people that are searching for similar materials. And in the next episode, we will be talking about Feycraft, so Fey magic and Fey magic items and how we can use them in our games and how are they different from the typical items and magic that we can find in Dungeons and Dragons. See you around.